This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
Guys, welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity, up your you. I'm your host, Isaiah, and it's been a while. Even hearing my voice right now sounds kind of different to me, but it's been a couple of weeks, just me kind of taking care of myself and just processing a lot, to be honest with you guys. And there's so much that I have to share, and just want to share and have the conversation with you guys. But it's been a lot. But one thing I will say when it all comes back full circle, solitude is the best medicine for a lot of things that you may be experiencing. And I'm going to talk about it in this episode, the importance of solitude and just how there's so much clarity in it, so much clarity and accountability and responsibility and boundaries. You know, solitude definitely allows you to enforce necessary boundaries with yourself and others. So this episode is going to be interesting. But I'm going to do my best to keep it as succinct and concise as possible. If you like what you're listening to on this podcast, head on over to iTunes, subscribe, comment, review. You could do that on Spotify too. So if you listen on Spotify, podcast is on Spotify. Leave a review. Let people know what it is that you love about the podcast. And for the newcomers, thank you for being here, for taking your time to just hear me out. And for the people who've been here, I appreciate you guys. Of course, it's all a great community of amazing listeners and hearts, and obviously just a tribe of people who are just looking to do better or feel better. And I will do my best with what I can. So, yeah, thank you for being here. And if you want to get Bird Brain merch, you can head on over to the Bird Brain store. The link is in the description of this episode. And Patreon, if you want to support the podcast, head on over to patreon.com. And I don't know if I'm missing anything else. I don't think I am. It's been so long, guys. So we're going to have a good conversation today. And I hope that you take away something, because I've learned a lot in these last few weeks that I've been away from you guys. So buckle up, get some water, get a pen and paper if you need to. If you're driving, just relax and let's enjoy this time. All right, stay tuned. Know yourself. That's how we're going to start this off. Guys, happy Monday. How are you? How's your heart been doing? How's your headspace been? Happy Juneteenth, happy Pride Month. I don't know if there's anything else significant in this month, but I hope, if you're out there, you're just feeling, liberated, you're feeling invigorated and rejuvenated. And just walking with a sense of purpose, as you should, because life, throws us challenges. And a lot of times we downplay the people that we are molded into because of those challenges. And you should be proud of yourself if you've been working through some things, maybe that you don't put on display, maybe other people know about, but you should know that you deserve to be proud of yourself. All right. So, yeah, it's been a couple of weeks, guys. It's been a couple of weeks, and I obviously this podcast is about mental health, right, and taking care of yourself. And for me, man, it's been rocky, and not necessarily in a way of like I've had these catastrophic experiences recently. It's just like for me, depression is one of those things that shows up whether you're doing well or whether you're not doing well. Like it's just one of those things. Depression is that uninvited, very imposing relative that just shows up when they want, shows up unannounced, and sometimes they overstay their welcome. And what I've learned is that I don't have to entertain you and devote all of my time. I will be aware of you though. So that's where I've been. And the interesting thing about it all is that it's forced me to just really be in solitude. I'm naturally in solitude. I don't really I'm not like this big social butterfly. It may seem like that, and it's funny because when people talk to me, they're like, "Yeah, you're so outgoing," or you're such this, you're such this," and I'm like, "That's cool. I appreciate that." I'm able to do those things, and I think the misconception is that um, because you're outgoing and all these things, you cannot be introverted. And listen, listen, it's a I'm grateful that I do have the capacity to connect with so many of you guys, and it still blows my mind how that all works. Because it's just me talking about my experiences, and recently, what I've been realizing on even on my social platforms is that there's so many other people out there that have just been journeying through what I've been journeying through, or I've been journeying through what you guys have been journeying through. And sometimes you just need somebody to speak about it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you just need to hear it to know that it's not you, And like I said, with, mental health being a very, big priority for me, I resort to a lot of times solitude, but also too very, very, very intentional about the people that I spend time with. And reason being is because when you're not doing well or you're not feeling your best, it is not good to continuously show up in environments that take away what little you have to offer. Okay. And one thing I wrote down, so I was just making notes and taking notes over these last few days, and even a lot over over the weekend. And one of the things I wrote down is reduce exposure to the thing that's causing you stress. And listen, I think what we have to do is take away this idea of good and bad, or good versus evil, when it comes to how we engage with other people. Yes, there are people that are just simply malicious, and that's just what it is. But I will use my experiences for example. There are some relationships I've noticed that are very inconsistent, hot and cold, or very conditional. So the access or the exchange is not really there unless it's convenient for the person, or unless they feel that they want to be present. And for me, I don't operate that way. So that level of stress that it gives me is different than somebody else, because that's not how I function in my relationships. Either I'm in or I'm not. And again, being in solitude and taking time for myself, I realized how much better I was feeling, because I was not making it a point, and I didn't have the energy to engage with people to the capacity that I was before. And when I stopped doing that, I realized I wasn't running around stressed. I wasn't worried. To a certain degree, I didn't care. If that makes sense. I didn't care, because there is a level of knowing yourself, knowing what you're capable of, knowing your levels of consistency, knowing what you're willing to offer up. And again, solitude has forced me to see myself. You go out into the world, and sometimes you're eager to get to know other people. And I think the most important thing that you can do is get to know yourself very well, especially the parts that you don't want to deal with. get to know yourself very well so you can see the people around you. Get to know yourself very well so you can see how you respond to a lot of situations, because there's not always a verbal exchange in terms of what a relationship is, what it means, where the value is, or how a person feels about you. You know, the more you get to understand yourself, the more receptive and sensitive you are to just those little pings, those little pings that come from the outside. Start treating yourself like a shrine, or like a temple, or like a beacon, and take care of yourself. And the way you do that is just become more aware of who you are, so you can understand what things work for me and what things do not. So solitude, gratitude, solitude. And this is one of those things, and it'll bring it full circle. So I've recently, shout out to my buddy Scotty. Scotty's been he's out here recently. He's a fantastic musician, and I go to watch him perform. And dude nails it every time. He doesn't miss. He's a savage, and just such a kind heart. And he has an amazing support system. And recently I met now became pretty good friends with some of the people that he knows out here. And there was one guy I met, and, we were talking, shooting shit. And he said to me, he was like, when I first met you, I already knew what kind of person you were. He's like, I could tell. He's like, I could tell by how you shook my hand, how you like hugged as we were leaving. I could just tell that you were a solid individual. And I received that, and I let it hit, and I let it resonate. And a lot of thoughts started coming up. So I'm like, okay, so this person, and all of you guys out there who I haven't met in person yet, the things that you say, I take stock. I take stock, good, bad, or indifferent. I become aware, and it's not me necessarily looking for external validation to determine who I am, who Isaiah is, but my reputation. So if someone who does not know me, doesn't know me that long, but already knows how I move, that says a lot about relationships that have been in my life that I don't feel valued in. They're aware of it. They're aware of how I move. Whether or not they choose to willingly show up and reciprocate that, whether they're capable, whatever the case may be, that's not the case. What I'm being met with, it doesn't mirror always. But who I am is very much transparent, and you see it, you feel it, and you know it. So that's knowing myself. Okay, cool. This person said that, and we've only hung out maybe 2 or 3 times, and they already know that. Okay, awesome. That's information for me. Sometimes it is interesting to listen to what strangers say about you, because they don't owe you compliments. Strangers don't owe you any compliments. Strangers don't owe you any support, any accolades. So when you receive those kind of things from people who barely know you, that's when you start to pay attention. That's when you start to recognize who you are in a lot of ways. And then you start to work. You start to do the work. So hearing that and looking at, just kind of where I've been these last couple of, feels like years, but last couple of weeks away from you guys, but the last couple of months in general, I've just been taking a hard look at my relationships, and I've been taking a look at how I feel physically, and I've been taking a look at my response to a lot of things, where they come from, the root of it. And I've been doing that work. On top of that, I've been noticing a pattern. In noticing the pattern, once you have awareness, you now have accountability and responsibility, right? So again, taking care of the depression, making sure I'm good on that. And that's in itself, that's a workload, because not only are you dealing with that, you're also having to just work through your life, do your thing, do for you. And I realized, put some things down. And put some things down and walk away. It's not, I'm going to put this down and see what you do with it. It's like, put some things down. And I've put down a lot of relationships. I've stopped making it a point to be the go-to person, because what I've understood is that if I don't show up, the other person's not either. Okay. And sometimes it hits, it stings, because it's like, oh, you realize you're not a priority. That's okay. You're a priority to people. And I'm going to let you know this right now. You matter. Not everybody that you experience is going to be a replica of the things that you're trying to get away from. But when you do experience those moments of pain, or just ambiguity, or just hurt or disappointment, pay attention and unpack that stuff. And one thing I've been better about is meeting inconsistency with unavailability. And the reason being is because there are some people who go all in terms of how they deal with others. Some people give bits and pieces. Some people just half-ass altogether. All I can do is be responsible of myself. All I can do is be responsible for how I respond to the people around me and how they engage with me. And inconsistency is a big thing for me. It's been a big thing for me, especially like taking care of myself. I couldn't afford, and I can't afford, to just be in the space of, and I talked about, hot and cold. There is, and maybe this will resonate with someone out here. When someone's inconsistent with you, there's like these highs and lows that you receive, and you never know if it's coming or going, right? So in one moment, like, oh, they hit you up, or they make an effort to kind of connect with you. That's dope. Then maybe a week or two passes, maybe a month or so passes, or a couple of days, fine, and you just don't know what the hell is going on. And that happens, life happens, whatever the case may be. But if there's a certain level, and I'm not saying with strangers, I'm saying with your interpersonal relationships, the people that you invest in, the people that you've been doing life with, there's a certain level of communication and respect I feel that is required in relationships for them to be sustained. And I've noticed that there is a lack of ambition when it comes to effort, and a level of entitlement when it comes to it as well. So people are lazy when it comes to reciprocation, but very ambitious when it comes to being entitled to the effort that they receive or they're on the receptive end of. And again, it's not about good or bad or whatever the case may be. It just is. And all I can do is be responsible for myself, right? So I started taking a step back, and I honestly didn't have the energy. I was like, I don't have the energy to engage in this relationship because I don't know when it's coming or going. And I know what that does to me, like how that affects me. I'm aware of that. I'm aware of how I'm affected. So all I can do is take a step back. Maybe, yes, have a conversation if necessary. But one thing I understood too, again, solitude has been interesting for me. So you can talk to someone. People say communication. But there's a level of comprehension that's needed to have healthy communication. Because if someone does not understand where you're coming from, they will not understand the need for them to look at their behavior and how it affects you. Right? And they'll continue doing what they're doing because it's like, well, no one else has a problem with it, or I don't have a problem with it. So why do I need to change? I'm not changing, screw that guy or screw that girl. I'm gonna keep doing me. So the goal is to not expect someone else to change before you decide to. And I talked about change a long time ago. When people show you who they are, you have to believe them. That's a form of communication. That's language right there. When people show you who they are, and they usually show you pretty early on. A lot of times we want to look past it because we want to hold on to that relationship or we value the person. But you cannot You cannot show love to a person who's already shown love to themselves and you're being left out in the cold. For what? For what? What do you get from that? What do you gain from showing someone how consistently present you're willing to be despite what they show up, despite how they show up for you or when they show up for you? What do you get from being in a conditional exchange? You get a little ping every now and then and it feels good and that satiates you. No. You have to start realizing what it is that you think you actually deserve versus what you really deserve. Because we could all go around and say, yeah, self-worth, I deserve this, I deserve that. And then you look at your relationships and it's like, that's funny because you say you deserve these things, but you're getting less than the bare minimum and you're still engaging and you're walking around drained and depleted. So I've been practicing that. And what I've noticed is that when you start taking care of yourself and you start making it a point to heal and just really be cognizant of how you move through the world and what you're taking in and what you're engaging in, you'll still meet those same people. You'll meet a lot of the same people, but you'll become very aware and you will reject a lot of things that just don't sit with you. And it'll happen a lot sooner than later because you're aware now, you're being very cognizant of how you feel. You're aware of what you actually do deserve and you make promise on that. The thing about solitude is if you're alone, you take care of yourself. And when you are in solitude, you realize who's reaching out to make sure that you're good. You know, who's still pouring into you. You know, what relationships only exist because you keep pouring into them. Because when you stop and you don't have that energy or you don't have that space, where are those people? You know, how do they show up? What does that look like? Do they show up at all? And like I said, I've been using strangers as a reference because I'm like, okay, if these people see me, then that means that the people that are in my life see me too. Whether or not they choose to value me is a whole different ballgame. But it is not up to them to decide when I'm going to be valued or not. I have to decide that. And I have to be firm on that, hence boundaries. You know, start creating a space of consistency for yourself when you cannot rely on consistency outside of yourself. Okay? And the way you do that is you pull back. You pull back. And I know, you know, you hear the quote of like, well, you know, you can't just cut people off or you don't burn bridges and things like that. And a lot of times I hear it from people who are very flippant in their relationships. So the way you learn about people too is listen. Listen to the things that they talk about. Listen to how they exchange in other relationships. Just listen. Just be a fly on a wall sometimes. Like become a good listener so you understand the person you're engaging with. And this is on either side. If you're a person that's constantly overgiving of yourself, listen to the people that you're giving to. If you're the kind of person who really, you know, you pick and choose your battles, listen to the other people. Listening goes a long way because you will learn a lot. And again, you're going to meet a lot of people. But when you start meeting yourself, you'll learn to stop meeting up with those other people. You'll learn to stop meeting energetically with people that affect you in a negative way. And again, they don't have to be bad people, but they're just not good for you. All right. And, you know, it's not up to you to wait around when it comes to someone who's lacking accountability and self-awareness. Like, yes, give them grace, but you don't have to wait around for them to decide how they're going to treat you. That is not your job. Your job is to be who you are. Your job is to be authentic so you can connect with people who value you. And I really learned to stop being the lifeline. You know, I've learned to stop being a lifeline because I've been having to be my own lifeline, you know, and there are some relationships I have out here that are just amazing and they're few and far between. And I love that. I really, because of that, I value it even more. I'm the type that it's quality over quantity, honestly. And, it's just important to be aware, you know, treat others how you want to be treated and treat yourself how you're willing to treat others. And you got to ask yourself, when you go through these experiences with other people, you got to say to yourself, honestly, hey, if I did this to this person, would they like that? Would they be okay with that? Would they want to be friends with me? Would they want to be in a relationship with me if I treated them the way that they're treating me? And the answer is probably no, because nobody likes being mistreated. But there's semantics when it comes to how we treat others, right? There's all these loopholes. There's all these kind of stipulations and fine print when it comes to how we're willing to treat others. And the goal is to not match people's energy. The goal is to create consistent energy. And sometimes consistent energy means stepping away from inconsistencies and being okay with it, because you're not going to lose anything when it comes to a person that's hot and cold with you. I'm telling you that right now. Sometimes it may feel scary to walk away from these relationships, but you just think that you're losing something. And the truth of the matter is you're not. You're not losing anything when it comes to a person who's not really pouring much into you and not willing to give much, whether they can or whether they just don't want to. You don't lose. And yeah, you're not. I wrote this down. The goal or intent is not to match energy. If that's not you, it shouldn't become you. The goal or intent is not to match energy. If that's not you. If that's not you, it shouldn't become you. Do not become the people that you keep having to heal from, because now you become a person that somebody else has to heal from. Be consistent. And if you're going to be the person that you are, don't be ashamed of it. Don't hold guilt to the fact that you have a capacity to care about others, sometimes before yourself. Just understand, because you're capable of doing that, you deserve to have a little bit more discernment. Your kindness needs insurance. Your kindness needs insurance. And what that looks like is boundaries. What that looks like is recognizing relationships for what they are. No matter how much you care about a person, a relationship is based off of how they invest in you too. That's what a relationship is based off of. And that's just it. That's just it. It's important to be mindful moving forward of just how you exist in your space. And if you are not doing the best, take care of yourself first. Take care of yourself in the best way possible. And the more time you spend in solitude, the more you start to see the relationships around you. Because when you're in solitude, you're just kind of standing still. Energetically, you're standing still because you're not exchanging with as many people, right? So solitude allows you to energetically stand still. And when you energetically stand still, you're able to pick up on a lot of things that are happening around you. And it's going to blow your mind a little bit, but you have to take it in stride and always know that if you're a consistent person, you do not deserve to exist in inconsistent spaces just to prove how consistent you can be. All right. Life is a puzzle, and this is not one worth figuring out. See things for what they are. Believe people when they show you who they are. Believe yourself. Listen to strangers when they say certain things about you, because they're not getting paid to compliment you. How you treat people that can do nothing for you says a lot about you. All right. So it's been a while, and I hope this episode resonates with someone out there, just because, again, it's been a lot for me, and I've been practicing boundaries. I've been aware of how I feel without necessarily speaking on everything. And there's been amazing things happening, and because that's happening, it's I want to protect those things, and I have to be mindful of the company that I keep, because that's an investment, right? And you got to invest properly. So I hope you guys have an amazing week. 4th of July is coming up. I hope you spend time with people that you care about, connect with people. And I hope that you just have people that you could be sure of that are looking out for you too, especially when you're not able to look out for everybody else. You don't have to save the world all the time. Sometimes you deserve to be saved too. I love you guys. Have an amazing week. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And again, if you're new here, or if you've been here for quite some time, thank you for just sitting down and listening, and having this conversation with me. All right? Take flight.